Hi there, welcome to Master Your Mental Health. I'm Dr. Jackie.
And I'm Alyson Jones.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk a bit about a bit of a heavier subject. I think, I'd like to have a conversation with you. I have personally been doing a lot of my personal growth and development in the last couple of years has been around letting go of the past, letting go of past trauma, making peace with it might be another word.
With the past,
And I've learned a lot in my journey of this. And what I've realized is if you carry around all the pain and trauma of your past, it's kind of like you're pulling a heavy sled everywhere you go.
You are.
But the only person you're hurting is yourself. Like, you're not punishing anyone else by carrying around this heavy sled full of whatever it is, anger, grief, resentment, all of those trauma, all of those things, not to make light of those. And obviously, if you're having trouble getting over or if you're having trouble dealing with something in your past, then that's definitely a time to see a therapist and get some assistance with that.
And in saying that, we'll just jump in now too and say that the conversation that we're having today is a conversation.
Yeah.
We're not giving you psychological advice or medical advice. We're just trying to have an honest conversation about making peace with your past, because I think this is very important, and that everybody in our quests to master our mental health are going
That's going to be part of the journey.
It's part of the journey. And so I like what you said about if we're just carrying everything, it's just like this big, sled behind us, or, baggage that we're carrying. But one of the things I also say is, and this is where sometimes getting a good counselor or having some sort of trusted person in your life, is you don't unpack the suitcase when you're in the middle of the road. So when you're in the middle of the crisis, right, we just have to deal with it.
Yeah,
whatever the hard thing is, the trauma, the challenge, the heartbreak, the
whatever it is,
is that isn't going to be the time we unpack the suitcase and release ourselves from that baggage. It's going to be when we're on the side of the road.
I love that. Don't unpack the suitcase when you're in the middle of the road.
You just can't, because you have to get out of the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be, you make yourself very vulnerable if you start to unpack your suitcase
when you're not ready.
Yeah. So if you're trying to process and let go of your trauma while you're in the middle of the crisis, that's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
But getting to the side of the road when you're safe and secure and you realize you're no longer in danger, then that's a perfect time to get, that baggage
to
open
have a look at it
and deal with it. Right. So what are some of the tools and tricks and things that you've done to help yourself make peace with the past?
What it's actually not anything more than one simple thing that I actually learned and internalized. And at that point, I realized it was like a fundamental shift. And people do say, live in the moment, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've heard that before, and it's never really landed with me that that's important.
Right.
But if you think about this, the only thing that exists right now and has any power to hurt us is the present.
That's true.
The past doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's not.
And neither does the future yet.
It's just now.
Right? So the point is that you're in control of the narrative about your past that you're telling yourself.
Yes.
In other words, if you sit there and berate yourself or berate somebody else for something that happened 5 years ago, the only person that you're hurting is you. Because no one else is in charge of those messages that you're repeatedly giving yourself about things that might have happened in the past. So you are in control of the way that you view your past, but you have to allow a change in the voice in your head that describes or narrates your past to yourself. Do you see what I'm saying?
And narrative is a very good way. We tell ourselves stories.
Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't mean, I'm not saying these aren't our truths that we've experienced. I'm saying, though, we'll look back in them in our perspectives, and we create these narratives. And the thing is, you can create a narrative for yourself on which you are a victor or a victim.
Exactly.
And you can create a narrative for yourself in which you are crushed or you are resilient.
Yep.
Like, and the event can be the same, but the narrative is something that you have power over.
And that's where the power is.
Yeah.
And it's like this. Continuing to relive something or reframe something in a negative way about your past is basically like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah. Right?
Like, you're really only hurting
you're only poisoning yourself.
who you are.
Yeah.
And the only person that has a relationship with the past is you. Yeah. So that's entirely under your control. And that's what, then when I realized that, then the words living in the moment suddenly made more sense.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, it felt to me like I basically put down the sled.
Yeah. Right.
And then I felt free because I was in control of it, of all of it.
Yeah, because yes, exactly. I love that idea that you actually did free yourself, and you were probably felt more you than ever.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the thing. And the one thing I'm going to add in this is, and we'll probably do another show a little bit more about how we really let go of our losses.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to say is in reconciling with your past, in moving forward with this, you do need to have your time to work through your emotions too. So we don't just go from crisis or difficult thing to, releasing the sled, right? Like, we have a process, and emotions are meant to be worked through.
Yeah.
They do not last forever. No emotion ever lasts forever. So
right.
Where people get stuck, Jackie, sometimes is that they actually don't process their emotion.
Right.
They just put it in a sled and carry it around.
Sled and carry it.
Right? So part of the healing is really in processing the emotion, feeling the sad, feeling the mad, feeling it in your body, talking about it, but feeling it and experiencing it.
Leaning into it. Yeah, and there's a certain amount of leaning in and acknowledging the feelings and knowing that even if they're negative, they're not going to be there forever.
Yeah.
And so they're temporary, like whatever emotional storm someone is in.
I'm going to say I don't believe in negative emotions.
Yeah.
I actually think they're all purposeful.
Yeah.
And but they're just difficult.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult to be angry. It's difficult to be grieving.
Yeah.
So, but emotions that's what they're meant to be, is felt. Yeah. To be moved.
It's our way of acknowledging things. We have to listen to that.
Yeah. So I think it's
So but the one thing I think we need to point out is, if your emotions are really overwhelming you and you're really having difficulty putting things in the past away, it possibly be because you haven't really done the work. There's a significant amount of work to do.
And felt the feelings.
Yeah. And I would honestly, even for a few visits, seek out somebody, a therapist, a counselor who's good, especially if you feel like you've been traumatized, who might be good in trauma management. There are certain techniques that can be done for people around trauma. So
it's a very exciting time, actually, because it's a new world in
knowledge
trauma. Of neuropsychology is so much deeper than it was even 10 years ago. Yeah. So for us therapists in the mental health profession, we have more tools now to actually help people process and let go of trauma. There's specific different types of therapy. There's EMDR, there's lifespan, there's somatic therapies. There are, and these are, what's very cool about them, they're not just, sitting on the couch and talking.
No,
like, there's
it's actually work. You have to do work.
But it's actually kind of, it's super rewarding.
Must be really rewarding.
Yeah, and rewarding for the person.
For you.
And for me too, because
as the practitioner, because you really are, you're creating a situation in which people can heal. Yeah. Like heal from their core wounds. And that's a new and exciting time.
Well, and for you as a physician, I imagine the same thing for you when you've worked with patients, that excitement and feeling that I can actually do something practical and helpful here to ease this person's suffering to help them heal. I think it's such a parallel experience.
And we talk about healing, and we always talk about healing when it comes to our bodies, right? Yeah. Well, this is healed. I got this. This is a scar. See that? It healed.
Yeah.
But we need to start thinking about healing psychic injuries, healing psychological trauma. We need to really, start focusing on that. And I think at that point, then it'll click for you guys too, and you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll say, yeah I can really put this away.
And I know I can really be present in the now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just slugging around a big, sled full of things. I can breathe in my moment in my life, which is right here, right now.
Moment.
Yeah, in the moment. So that's what we wanted to talk about today.
In a very brief nutshell. I mean, it's hard to do anything in depth, and of course we're not providing therapy anyway. But what we're saying is that there's a door there that you could go through that might really improve how if you're having trouble dealing with your past trauma.
And don't beat yourself up if you are, because everybody does.
Yeah.
That's the part I want to normalize it is all of us have crises in our past. All of us have had traumas of one type or another.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're all equitable, but I'm saying that we all understand that there are things that we've all experienced loss.
Yeah. And we need to heal.
And we need to heal.
And we'll talk more about that. We're
Absolutely.
We're
talking a lot more about that.
This is just sort of an introduction, and also something that I learned that had meaning to me in the last couple of years that I've done some work around.
Thank you for sharing that, Jackie. I found that really interesting to hear about your process and how you shifted from not really understanding that, and how then when it created meaning for you, and it actually really made such an impactful change in your life.
Massively.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us as
so
always.
Thank you.
Please leave your comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you would like. And I've got a couple links below. One is for our Facebook page, and the other one is for the book that we have contributed to that was released. So
we're pretty excited. So
we're doing lots of things.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.